Hello, everybody. So this is the video for Lab 8. So in spring 2026 here, the current semester as I record this, Lab 8 had a due date of March 10th, and now it is March 13th. I've just changed it. That's because the video was not up, because I'm recording it right now. So let's just jump into Lab 8 and see what we have. All right. So, what we have in this lab is not much, okay? So this is going to be a quick lab for us to do. You can only do this in Eclipse. If you're using an online platform, you may not be able to do this because this video opens a window. So this looks like a complicated assignment, but it really isn't. So one thing I will say before I go to Eclipse to do this is if you look at this code here, you'll see that it says public class main, and you've made a lot of classes. This one looks a little bit different than the ones you've made in the past, but this main class here, that's the name of the class, which means this main class should go in a file called main.java. And when we make our class, we should pay attention to that. The reason for that is because if you want to use a different class name, like you wanted to call the class Lab 8 or something like that, there would be multiple places that would have to be changed. That's unusual for the labs that we've done so far. But if you look for this capital M main, you'll see that it's right here. And if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see that it's also right here. And if you scroll down even more, you will see that it's in a third place down here and also here. So there's actually like 4 places or something that you'd have to replace if you change the name. So my recommendation is don't change the name. So how do we get started? So I have Eclipse open right here, have something open that's not running, and we'll get started. So uh, I'll go to File, New Java Project, like normal. I can name this however I want, so I could call it Lab 8. I'll call it Lab 8, and I'll say S26. That's for me because I already have a Lab 8, and S26 because it's spring 2026. So I've got my project, expand it. I'll click on the SRC, and I'll go to New Class. And when I make the new class, I'm going to name it main. Okay, so capital M, main. I don't need to worry about like the public static void main or anything here. Whether you check it or you don't check it is fine because when we create our class here, we're just going to delete everything that's in here anyway. So I feel like I have the colors weird here in the theme. So like when I select everything, you can't even tell that I selected all the text, but I selected the text and I'm just going to delete it. So this is just an empty file. Now back over here, it says write a program with the following code and verify that it works. So I'm just going to copy my code. It's kind of a bit difficult to get it all on the same page and it wasn't scrolling, but I'll try to copy this code, including the comment up here. Copy. Over here, paste it. Make sure that you don't have the original code when you copy paste. It might be hard to notice, but remember that I did delete everything that was in this file before I put this here. And then I'll save it. So I'll hit Command S on a Mac, Control S on a PC, and we've saved our file. And, I can go ahead and I can put my name here. We can change the date to be the current date. I don't know why it said 3/2/25 because this wasn't a lab that I've used in the past. Um, so I think I just misdated it, but I'll call it 3/3/26, whatever. That's the right class. That's the right lab. Okay, so this is all good. Now, if I save this right here, which I did, and I run it, this is going to be different than other applications that we've run. So I'm going to do run, and this is what I get. So I actually get a window up here. So the code that I've got in this file is kind of the minimal amount of code you need to get something like this to happen. And so I've got a blank window This window is 800 pixels wide. It is 600 pixels tall. You can see that there's a title. It says 600 hertz movement demo, and there's a rectangle here. You'll also see that two buttons actually do things, actually four buttons. But if I press the up arrow, I can move that up. And if I press the right arrow, I can move that right. And also, I guess on the WASD keys, the W will move up and the D will move right. However, I can't move down. If I press down, nothing happens. If I press left, nothing happens. If I press S, nothing happens. If I press A, nothing happens. But W and D move up and left, like the normal thing that those keys do in, games and stuff. So I've already moved that rectangle off the screen and there's no way to get it back. So I can just close this. We saw what it does, right? And so the code here does various things. I'll briefly explain some of it, but like if you wanted to start your own video game, for example, it would be good to start with code like this. Just as this gets a window up and stuff looks okay, right? Like we get a window up and things can move. So what code is there here? So first thing, like Java X Swing, Java AWT, those are libraries that support a lot of stuff related to Windows. So we need like the Java AWT dot star that will get us any kind of stuff related to opening Windows. And the Java AWT dot event dot star, that's where stuff related to input handling, so like keystrokes and so on, is in there. There's some other stuff here that doesn't really need to be here, but it's just here anyway. So, okay. Then we've got our public class main. That's normal. This much is normal. However, extends JPanel implements action listener. This has never been in our programs before. So a JPanel is what's going to allow us to open a window, and action listener is what's going to allow us to read keys. Now, you don't have to like remember all this. It's just kind of, we can recognize what's here. We have some constants. They're integers. So width 800, height 600. That's for the size of our window. Rect size, that's the size of the little rectangle that we're drawing. And speed is 5, which is when I press a key that moves it, it's going to move a minimum of 5 pixels. So like if you press it as quick as you can, it still moves 5. I'll just close this again. So that's what the speed is going to be used for. Rectangle position 375, 275. That's roughly in the middle here. Actually, this is going to be the top left corner of our rectangle. So I think actually maybe this is actually perfect for getting it centered. Not that it matters too much. 50 pixels by 50 pixels is how big our box is that I'm drawing. This is a kind of a generic way to set up the keyboard so that we can detect button presses. So they made a set, which is kind of like a list, but the order doesn't matter. So this is like a list of the keys being pressed. And then in the main, we have to set stuff up for our window, basically. So we're going to set the size to be the width and height, so 800 by 600. We're going to set the background color to black, focusable to true. You may, when you have Windows type programs, the window could have focus, which means it's the one you're currently interacting with, or it could not have focus, which means it's like in the background. And so this is allowed to be in the foreground, basically. And then it says this add key listener. And then it says like stuff about key pressed and key released. So this section of code is what detects when keys are being pressed. Then there's a timer, and the timer is 1000 milliseconds divided by 60 is approximately 16 milliseconds. And so this timer is 16 milliseconds, which is how long one frame is. So basically, this is a timer that is trying to time out 60 frames per second, roughly. I think it's like 62 and a half. Then it says public void action performed. This is where like what's going to happen on every frame. And so we're going to update the position of the rectangle and then we're going to draw it. And you don't need to understand all this code. I'm just kind of explaining what the sections are for in case you're curious. We have a method called update position. This is what we're actually going to be modifying when I actually talk about the lab in a minute. Um, this is where we're going to detect the WASD keys and the arrow keys and do something. Paint component, that's where we draw stuff. So it says like draw the rectangle, and it does that by setting the color to white. So it's a white rectangle. And then it does fill rect, which is going to draw a filled rectangle. And the X and the Y coordinates are where our rectangle should be, the upper left corner. And the size is for the width and the height of the rectangle. So you could change those if you wanted to change the size of the rectangle. And then down here, this is what we're used to seeing. This is what we're used to seeing inside of a Java project. This is our main method. This is what actually runs when you actually start up the program. So JFrame is the window. So it creates a new window. And then it sets it up with our main method, which is it runs basically this code up here, this code right here, actually. And then if you're able to close the program, that's what this line is for. Um, then it puts the game window, not much of a game, but it puts the game window into the window, and that's about it, and makes it visible. So there's a lot of code here that we don't understand, but you can make a little bit of sense of it, and when you run it, you get this. So what are we supposed to do? So let's look at our lab again. So we write this program and just verify that it works. And later on this semester, we're going to write a proper game, probably Breakout or something like that. Pong might be a bit too easy. Some other games might be a little bit too hard, but Breakout's roughly the difficulty we want. So maybe we'll do Breakout. Um, anyway, this is kind of a start of getting stuff to move around on a screen. Of course, all we know is how to do if statements. That's what this week is about. So look at what it says. Modify the code above to do the following. Find the code in update position. So we'll look for update position that controls the movement based on the pressed keys. Okay. Right now, only two directions work. So if you try the WASD keys or the arrow keys, you can see up and right works, but left and down don't. And then it says add the missing keys to make movement work in up, down, left, right. Okay. And then it also says to make one other change to the code, but let's just do the movement first. So as we said, not here, here, as we said, when you run this, up and right work, but that's it. So down and left don't work. So I'll close this and let's look down in the code for this update position. So update position says move up. If pressed keys dot contains vk key event dot vkw, so that's the W key, or we know how or works, right? Pressed keys contains vk up, so that's the up arrow. Then what do we do? I should code it this way is how I should have done it. And maybe I'll do the same thing here. Yeah, this looks a little nicer. Um, this is how we should have made this look, maybe. I'm going to close this to give me more space. This is probably how I should have written this. So we could kind of write our if statement here. So if the key contains W or up, then we're changing the Y value of our box. So there's these variables here. The rectangle's position is just given by the X and the Y key. So if X moves in one direction, like if you make X bigger, it moves to the right. And if you make X smaller, it moves to the left. Um, and I'll even write that here. So let's see. X smaller equals left. X bigger equals right. And then as far as the y values go, y smaller equals something, y bigger equals something. This might work slightly differently than you think because the way this happens, may as well save it, is 0, 0 is actually up here in this corner. So a y value of 0 is actually the top, and a y value of, I guess, 600 is down here at the bottom. So y value 0 is at the top, and y value 600 is at the bottom, which means that if you want to move up, you make the y value smaller because 0 is at the top. And if you want to move down, you make the y value bigger because big y values are at the bottom. So all we have to do is move this rectangle around with the X and the Y keys. And you can see this too, because if I run this right now and it's basically in the center, if I change this X value to, 30, for example, you'll see it is now on the left, right? So small X value equals left, big X value equals right. And so if I were to put in like 630, that's way over here on the right. And there's 800 pixels from left to right because we made our window size 800 by 600, as you can see here. So changing the X value changes where it is left and right. And so I think it started out, was it 375? And if you want to change the Y value, you'll change where the box is vertically. So if I change this to 20, you'll see that that's near the top. And if I were to change it to 520, that is near the bottom because it's 0 at the top, 600 at the bottom. So with all that said, we should be ready to go do make the box move. So what's happening here, maybe I'll put numbers in here for the moment to make it easier to see. So what this is saying is every time somebody presses the W key or the up key, we're going to subtract 5 from the Y value. Because this notation here, Y minus equals 5 means this, means Y equals Y minus 5. And this one here means X equals X plus 5. So up and W, they subtract from the Y value, which means that Y value becomes smaller, which means the box goes up. And here, this is the X value, so that's horizontal. And if you press the D key or the right key, then we're going to add something to X. And if you add on to the X value, it's going to move to the right. And so what we need to do is just add code for down and for up, or sorry, for down and for left. So it's really easy to do actually. So all we do is take the code, let's say for up, I'll just copy it. You can't see what I've selected, but I selected the whole thing. So here's my code. I just copy pasted the code from up down here. So what do we have to change? Well, what keys are we going to use? Well, first of all, it's not the up key. It should be the down key, which you can guess at the name just based on what you see here. And then if we're using WASD or up, down, left, right, what key should be down? I think it should be the S key. So now I'm detecting the S key or the down key. And if I run this, what happens now is if I press W, it goes up. And if I press S, look, it's still going up, but I'm pressing the down key. So we still can't move it down. And the reason we can't move it down is because we haven't actually put the right thing here. Because when we make the y value smaller, you move up. So if you want to move down, you have to change it from subtracting to adding. Now you'll move down. So when I run it again, now up moves up, and look, down moves down. So I can move it up and down now. So there we go. So we want to do the same exact thing, but for left. So if I take the code here for moving right, and I'll put it there, and let's kind of fix the kind of indentation here. So for left, what keys should be left? Well, first of all, the arrow key should be the left arrow key. So that's going to be VK underscore left. And in terms of WASD, I think left should be the A key. So now I'm detecting the A key in the left key. And you can probably guess what else we need to do, which is if x equals x plus 5 moves right, then to move left, we need to move the other direction. So instead of plus 5, it should be minus 5. So like y minus 5 is going to move up, y plus 5 is going to move down, x plus 5 is going to move right, x minus 5 is going to move left. So we make all these changes, run it again, and you'll see now I can actually move this box wherever I want to using the arrow keys or WASD keys. It's all going to work the same. And so that's the main thing we wanted to do. And this was just a way to give you an if statement that you could try to write. Um, we just copy pasted it and we were able to get it to work. And a lot of programming, especially when you're doing like games and things, is this kind of repeated code where it's like, well, yeah, if you can figure out how to move it up, moving it right or down or left is going to be the exact same concept. Now, you might notice that I have like fives here on all of these right now. Um, that's because, like let's say I want to move the box slower. If I want to move the box slower, I could change that to like a 1. And if I change it to a 1, you'll see that now if I move down, it goes fast. But if I press up to move up, it's a lot slower, right? So this is up, this is down, up, down. And so it's moving slowly up, but quick down. And I don't want to have to change the speed basically 5 different times. And that's why way up here, there was a variable to control the speed. And so that's why when you looked at the original code here, instead of having numbers, it was just speed, 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 speed. That way, when I run it now, I get just the same speed in all the directions. And if I want to, I can change that speed to another number. Like if I make it 25, now it'll move really fast, right? It can also move off the screen and come back. Um, right? So that's like zooming, right? So you can control it with one number and it controls the speed in every single direction. So that's why we use a constant for that. Um, you can put whatever numbers there you want. Also, the way it was originally written was instead of y equals y minus speed, remember it was written this way, minus equals. And you can do that for any of these. So this would be like it's a plus. So this would be plus equals. And this was a plus. So this would be plus equals. And this is a minus. So it would be minus equals, which we learned in the section on math operations, I believe, in Zybooks. We learned about the existence of this kind of shorthand notation. So anyway, that's actually the lab. So you would just need to turn this in. However, we need to make one other change to the code, and it's up to you. I just want you to look at the code and try to decide. But some possibilities include colors, or the box size, or the box shape, or whatever. And if you can look at the code and guess at how to do that. For example, you can find a color. It says like draw the rectangle and it says color dot white. Well, white's not the only color, right? So you could do color dot, we could pick a different color. So you can do green. Hey, look, now we have a green box. Or you could do um, magenta. That's probably a color. By the way, I think all lowercase will work for colors. Also, all uppercase should work for colors without an error. And there's other things you could do, but we can just use these named colors for now. So you could change the color. You could also change the color of the background. You'll have to scroll around and look for it, but if you kind of look carefully, you'll see that there's a background and it's black. So if you didn't want black, you could pick a different color. So probably gray will work, maybe. Yeah. So we got a gray background now. So you can change colors. What else could we change? It says we could change the size. Yeah, we could change the size of the box. So if I put like 5 here, that's going to be a little teeny tiny box. It's like a dot. Um, if you use 150, you will have a great big box that can move around for the size. Also, we can change this. This is the shape. So you wouldn't know this unless somebody told you, but so you can see where it says graphics G, capital G graphics. So if you do graphics Java, and we look in here, we might be able to find a list of, so that this is just kind of the first site that popped up. We might be able to scroll through here and it says method summary. And if we just keep scrolling and we look at the method names here in the middle, you'll see we can probably find fill rect, which we were just using here. And it says fills the specified rectangle. So it's an X, a Y, a width, and a height. But you'll see that there's other options here, right? Because there's fill oval, there's fill polygon, there's fill round rect. Um, we can try that one. That's a little bit we have to be a little bit careful though, because this has an X, a Y, a width, and a height. This needs X, Y, width, height, and it also has arc width, arc height. And so that's like a corner radius. Let's try that. Let's try fill round rect. So fill round rect. And we'll get an error if we try to do this because remember there were these extra 2 things at the end, the width, the arc width and the arc height. So I don't know how those work. So let's just try this. Let's just try 5 and 5. What's that look like? Did it do anything? Oh no. Let's try 25, 25. Ah, yeah, that's a nice rounded rectangle. Um, so this is somehow related to how round the corners are. Also, come here, like maybe I don't want it this big, maybe I want it to be 35. And now it's a pretty round rectangle. That seems too small though, doesn't it? So we should go maybe make our size 75. I don't know. Okay, I like that. So that's a different shape. It kind of looks nice there. What else could I do? Um, I could, what happens if I make one of these 0? I can't really tell. Would make the other one 0. Uh, I also can't tell what's going on. Okay, but that's okay. What if I make one big and I make one less big? Oh, okay. I can kind of see that that's kind of doing something. So you can play around with things, and that's the only point is to try to play around with things for right now. Just change a couple things, and when you're happy with it, you can submit the code. Now, there's other things here. I could have done fill oval. So if we get rid of those extra things I added, and I just change this to fill oval, not oval T, oval, then you'll see we get a circle instead of a box. That's interesting. And anyway, I think that's about all I want to do for today. So, once you got this working, then you just need to make a couple changes. Actually, it just says one change. So, like change the color, change the size, change the speed, change something. And then after you change it, then come back here and you can submit the file. So you don't need a screenshot. I just need the code. It doesn't really have to be called Lab 8. It should be called main.java probably because if you copied me, it should be called main.java. In fact, I'm going to change it right now to say that. And that's it for the lab. Okay. So that is it for Lab 8, and that is it for this video. So I will go ahead and talk to you guys later.